This is Grumblethorpe on busy Germantown Avenue. Busy street now, yeah, and it was busy then. Then, when? During the Revolutionary War. Now this place, obviously, is haunted.
Sometimes we say it's full of spirits.
In 1777, this was the headquarters of British Brigadier General James Agnew. He went on a mission to meet his troops. On that mission, he was mortally wounded. He was brought back here by his loyal servant, and he died there.
There is this mark right around where the floor cloth ends, and that is our bloodstain. Some have said that Agnew is still here.
Also, another ghost here, a little more pleasant, I guess.
One of the oldest stories is that Justinia, who was a yellow fever victim, appeared to Sally Localish one night, and Sally saw her ghost. They also say that she has baked bread, and you can smell the bread.
I'm Charles J. Adams III, so please come with me as we explore the haunted streets of Philadelphia.
The Philadelphia Society for the Preservation of Landmarks was founded in 1931, and we started out as a preservation advocacy group. Over the years, we have shifted our priorities to long-term stewardship of house museums. Phila Landmarks acquired Grumblethorpe from Worcester descendants in 1941.
Now this place, obviously, is haunted.
Sometimes we say it's full of spirits.
Or enchanted, yes.
Yes. John Worcester was a German immigrant. Originally, he was Johannes Worcester. He came over in the early 1720s. He was a wine merchant, sold Madeira. He had a very prosperous business and was able to acquire a fair amount of land. It was built in 1744 as John Worcester's big house. It was a summer retreat. Those of wealth would live in the city, roughly October through May. And then when it got hot and icky and stinky in the summer, as most Philadelphia summers are, they would come out to Germantown. Grumblethorpe is a very interesting name, very interesting to spell. Grumblethorpe came from a 19th century poem where Charles Sr., the third owner of the house, read it, and it reminded him of his ancestral home because just like in the poem, there were a lot of family disagreements that happened here, and so he named it after that. During the Revolutionary War, Philadelphia was occupied between September 1777 and May of 1778. Those who could, left. So John Worcester was unable to leave, so he stayed in his downtown home. So the house was empty during the Battle of Germantown. For many Philadelphians who were living in the city during the occupation, it was much more of keep your head down because you didn't want to get in trouble with the British, nor did you want to get in trouble with the Americans. So it was sort of like things were happening around you and you just had to find a way to survive. So the British decided, this is a great headquarters. It had all of the resources it needed. It had a kitchen, it had a privy, it had a farm, it had woods. So the British camped out here, and then they marched about 2 miles down the road, had the Battle of Germantown. General James Agnew was in charge of the British during the Battle of Germantown. During the battle, he was wounded. It was so bad that there was no way he was going to survive it. It's actually here where he bled out and died.
And his spirit remains here, it is believed by some.
There is this mark right around where the floor cloth ends, and that is our blood stain. It's more of a bleach stain from scrubbing the blood out, but it has left a permanent scar on our floorboards. This is what we would call a drawing room, which comes from withdrawing room. And so this would be a more intimate space. This was a more friends-only kind of space.
Mackenzie, we are in another pleasant room as far as I'm concerned, because this is where a lot of food was either manufactured or processed, right?
Yes, so we are in the kitchen, also known as the summer kitchen. It was great to have your kitchen separated from your house. Kind of like in the summer, you don't turn the oven on. You don't necessarily want to be in the kitchen at the same time. So this would have been a service space. Being in a kitchen, being a cook was a highly skilled occupation. One of the oldest stories is that Justinia, who was a yellow fever victim, appeared to Sally, who was John Worcester's granddaughter, Localish one night, and Sally saw her ghost. They also say that she has baked bread and you can smell the bread from there. It's a multi-sensory experience.
Residue, yeah.
So as a servant, they would have been in charge of all aspects of the household, which would include anything coming from the kitchen. And I don't know about you, but if I was visited by a ghost, I would love the smell of fresh bread. We have this as John's bedroom. Bedrooms were also a place where family could hang out. From us talking about the occupation of Philadelphia in 1777, so we have here the letter from John to his family saying that unfortunately, because of the occupation and inflation, there was no money for Christmas presents this year. Just like today, when we have problems with inflation, it affects everybody. It's been something that has existed for a long, long time.
Now, I sense a female presence here, not a ghost necessarily, but the aura of a female or females in this room.
This is Sally Wister's bedroom. Sally Wister was about 16 during 1777. Sally Wister was John's granddaughter. During the Battle of Germantown, Revolution, the occupation, they were out in the suburbs at a relative's home. During that time, she kept a journal written as a series of letters to her really good friend, Deborah Norris. Her journal is the only account we have of a teenage girl during the Revolution.
Wow.
And it's very, very interesting to have her perspective on, what life was like. She said she could hear the muskets and the cannons.
This would have been the playroom or the family room, or the children's room? Is it?
Yes.
Pretty obvious.
Yeah, there's a lot of stuff that make it indicative of a children's room. The more recent stories that we have are from our caretaker. He said he had a friend come over who was very sensitive to this, and that she went upstairs to the third floor and there were children playing there, and they told her where they had hidden things like books under the floorboards, and they found all of those things that he would have never guessed were there. When John first set up Grumblethorpe as a farm, it was just under 8 acres of land. It would have been called what is subsistence farming, in the sense that it fed the family's needs. Daniel, his son, as a gentleman farmer where he was able to afford importing plants and trees. Ginkgo trees, they are a very, very old species of trees. They were around when the dinosaurs were around. We believe this is one of the oldest female ginkgos in the United States. It was planted by Charles in 1830. And so what makes it a female ginkgo is that it produces those very pungent berries. It would have traveled as a sapling on a boat all the way over here.
Wow.
Grumblethorpe is an important aspect of Philadelphia because it's able to tell this story. It's able to tell the occupied Philadelphia story. It's to give that perspective of what it was like to be able to leave, what it was like to be neutral. When we talk about Philadelphia, it's often like, this is the birthplace of the Republic of Freedom, and laud the people that, stood up to the British. But from this perspective, we're able to tell the reality of folks that had to suffer those consequences.